Hello, everybody. I'm back with a few more Kubernetes questions today. These questions come from my GitHub repo. So if you'd rather prefer a written version of the same things, you can go to repo that I'm going to put a link in the description below, and you can study from there as well. But in the video format, sometimes I can give a little bit more context and it might make more sense to you besides just reading some text. So the first question today is, there are 5 kind of services you can have in Kubernetes. Can you tell me a couple of them, maybe 2 of them, and uh, in what scenario you would be using them? So the 5 ones are cluster IP, NodePort, load balancer, external name, and headless services. So those are the 5 kinds. Obviously, you don't have to memorize them for the interview. That's silly, but you do have to know that there are many kinds and maybe know a couple of them, right? So one of the first one, the most common one is cluster IP. What that means is it attaches the service because it points to a cluster IP that is a private IP, so it can only get to the service internally within Kubernetes, right? The other one, our other common one is NodePort, where you get an external IP and a port, so your DNS can point to that, and each node in the cluster would know how to route that traffic. If somebody hits that port on the node, it knows which pods to send the traffic to. That's another way, another one that's very common. Another one that's somewhat common is headless service, where there's no load balancer in front. So you can so when a request comes in, it goes directly to the pods. Those are called headless services, and it's most commonly and famously used in stateless services like a database, because the service would know which pod is the master and which pod is the secondary, and so on and so forth. So it knows the logic of which pod to send it to. You couldn't just send the traffic to a random pod, which is why this load balancer head is missing. So that's why it's called the headless service, and that's a third common one that people use. All right, so that was the first question today. The second question is, explain how each node handles traffic that gets to it from a node port service. So what happens is the DNS points to a IP address and a port, and that IP address then goes to a port on each node, same port. So the service is smart enough to figure out which IP and which port to send it to. Once it hits the node, though, it knows the port, whatever X is coming in, traffic coming in that port, it's smart enough to know that belongs to pods with certain labels, right? Which is the service, right? So it takes that and proxies the traffic to the pod behind it. And that pod may not live in the same node. It can easily be on a different node, but it's smart enough to send the traffic to that pod. That's how a node port traffic flow works on each node. All right, so that was the second question. Last question for today is, how can a container have access to a secret? Secret, as you may know or remember from my other videos, is basically a Kubernetes resource where you define a secret with a name. So let's give it database password. And the secret, you would define it in the config. However, it will be encoded, and it will be, when you look it up, it will be opaque. But you can mount the secret as a volume on a container or as a environment variable. So the container, when it needs to use the secret, say the password or SSH key or whatnot, it can look it up internally in Kubernetes, say, give me the value of this particular secret. And it gets the value that you don't get on the screen when you do a describe on the secret, right? So that's how it can grab the actual value and use it in memory and use it for whatever it needs to do. So those are the 3 questions I wanted to cover today. I hope you found these videos useful. If you do, please like and subscribe. That really helps me with the YouTube algorithm. And I will see you in the next Kubernetes interview video.